Thanks so much, everyone, for finding some time to spend with us talking about SOA Software and our DataPower offering. My name is Simon Barrera, and I'm going to spend a little bit of time with you today talking a little bit about how we can improve the DataPower experience using our Policy Manager for DataPower solution. So to do that, I want to start off with a basic solution with DataPower, what we call DataPower out of box, which is DataPower without any other additional tooling on top. And you can kind of think of it this way. Over here we have the DataPower appliance, okay, which everyone knows and loves. And today, typically you have DataPower developers who spend their time coming out with services, typically SOA, maybe even API-based services for the infrastructure. And you can see the developer up here. And the developer is going to log into the DataPower appliance, and they're going to spend some time to knock those services out. And they're going to create SOAP-based services and MQ-based services and REST-based services, everything that's needed in order to satisfy the enterprise. And when they finally come out with their services, then they actually have consumers coming in to access those services, and this helps the business to run. Now, this is all a pretty good story, and DataPower is extremely powerful, so they can get a lot done. But there are a number of different sort of concerns with this kind of approach. I'm going to list out some of these concerns in pink, and I'm going to talk a little bit about how SOA Software thinks about and approaches some of these different concerns. So one of the concerns that you find over time is that this is actually a bit of a lengthy process, because you have to log into the DataPower appliance and do a lot of work in order to get those services out. Another issue that you have is that you often lack SOA and API features, at least out of box. So things like management of security policy, monitoring, mediation, transformation, and so on. So without that available out of the box, you may not have that within all of your different services. And some of the key areas include things like, for example, monitoring and metrics. These are all very key issues for an SOA infrastructure. You also have some concerns about time to market. So in other words, how long is it actually going to take to get these services out? You're also going to have some concerns around the overall management of these services, especially what we refer to at SOA Software as lifecycle management. So it's more than just actually getting services out the door. It's also about being able to manage them from start to finish. So figuring out what services you want to offer, figure out whether or not those services have already been produced by other parts of the company, figuring out who needs to own it, what are all the artifacts, and so forth. So you have a lot of different concerns, and there's actually even more than this, but this is a good place to start. And I want to talk a little bit about how SOA Software approaches SOA and API governance for the DataPower platform in order to solve some of these and other problems. So to do that, what I want to do is over here, I want to draw another box. And that box is a box called Policy Manager. And Policy Manager is one of our key products. It is a runtime register repository, which means that it caters for the needs of a runtime environment for very large, sophisticated organizations who have tens, hundreds, perhaps even thousands of APIs and services that they need to deploy out. So this becomes a new place, and this is a web-based application, and it's a place that everyone in the enterprise can log into, including trading partners, in order to model their runtime architecture. So inside of here, you're going to have a whole bunch of services. Here's service 1, here's service 2, here's service 3. And you're going to use a very standard model in order to define all your different services, including things like security and monitoring and clustering and all these other important aspects. So here it becomes a very simple place. So instead of your staff having to log into DataPower to get all this work done, they can now come to Policy Manager and they can define a very large, very rich set of API and SOA services. So that's kind of step one, and that's the Policy Manager Register Repository. Step 2 here comes with our Policy Manager for DataPower product, which I'm going to draw in a box down here. Hopefully you can see this. So Policy Manager for DataPower, as its name implies, can actually take the model that's been defined inside of Policy Manager, and it can actually deploy it to the DataPower appliance. So instead of having to go in and do it all yourself, you can actually have Policy Manager for DataPower automatically deployed. So fundamentally, it's taking the model that you've defined very simply inside of Policy Manager, and it's deploying it to DataPower so that your services work the first time every time. And of course, it does it to more than just one DataPower appliance. It doesn't matter if you have 1, 2, 50, 100, doesn't matter how many appliances, doesn't matter how large, we can scale up to essentially any size. So you can imagine moving forward, everyone in the organization can now use Policy Manager to manage the full life cycle of your runtime services. And you can deploy very, very quickly. We can actually take a service that's been defined in Policy Manager and we can deploy it in as little as 15 seconds. That's a huge, huge benefit. The key goal of this entire sort of picture is that you guys can now concentrate on some of the more important things happening within your organization. You can start worrying about some of the larger enterprise concerns. You can start architecting more instead of having to go in and deal with the bits and bytes of DataPower. You can have very nice control over your entire life cycle. You can partner with your business partners more. So there's all kinds of things that you can be doing that today is really being bogged down by getting services out on DataPower. So with this model, you can realize quite a bit in terms of cost savings, quite a bit in terms of time to market, very quick development cycles, and you can manage your entire life cycle of your DataPower services. There's another product as well that I'll quickly mention up here, which is Lifecycle Manager. And Lifecycle Manager actually manages even more of the lifecycle than what you're getting within the runtime registry of Policy Manager. So essentially with these three pieces in the picture with DataPower, you now have all of these benefits solved very, very nicely in a very, very automated way so that you can concentrate on some of the bigger challenges that are happening within your organization. So the goal of this entire picture is that you can unlock the power of DataPower no matter how many services you want to deploy, no matter how large your DataPower infrastructure, no matter how many clusters and how much monitoring and how many runtime transactions, you know that we've got you covered. You know that we have all the right products in place to fully automate this infrastructure and make your endeavor much, much easier and much more cost effective moving forward. So thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate your time. Please visit us at SOA.com to learn more about our DataPower offering, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.